Hi, Evan Jones here. Welcome to Lawschooli.com's explanation of PT11 Game 2. This is an unbalanced game, and here, even though it looks like we have the same amount of pieces as spots, we actually don't have to use all of these, and there's the possibility of reusing them. So even though it would be possible for it to be balanced in some acceptable orders, it's not going to happen all the time. So let's talk about setting up the board here first. We have the days of the week, which is always an indicator that we're looking at an order in game. And here we've got a full work week, but then they tell us that Saturday and Sunday are out. So you might have drawn Saturday and Sunday first, and then you're just going to have to cross those out. Nobody can go on those days. For the game pieces, we have F, G, H, I, and J, and we're not told anything more about them until we get to the rules, so let's jump in there. First, they tell us that Saturday and Sunday are out. We had talked about that already. Now we find out that none of these can work more than 2 days per week, and up until then, we might have thought that this was just a balanced game, but okay, well, if they can work 2 per week, then maybe it's unbalanced, right? Possibly we could have F, F, and G, G, things are going to get unbalanced. And then anytime we use one of these more than once, it's got to kick one of them out. There won't be space to have all of them in. So how do we capture that in rule form? I always just say 2 max when I know that there's 2 maximum for each. So I write that right up by my game pieces. Now, no firefighter works on consecutive days. For that, I use, the universal symbol for just a random variable, XX. If I see any 2 next to each other, I violated the rule. So what this symbolizes is that FF, for example, can't be together, GG can't be together. So it's a not block that applies to any one of these variables. Now we get a slightly tricky sequencing rule, which tells us that F never works later in the week than Jackson. You could express that negatively, like this, JF, and then you can't ever see that, no F behind J. However, for me, I think it's better to keep sequencing rules positive whenever possible. So I just write F, and then F with a comma here, and then J, and that tells me that any Fs have to be before any Js. If I see 2, then they're going to have to be before the J. If I just see 1, that's before any J's too. FFJ. So just make sure to keep a good, strong mental note that that's a little different than your typical sequencing rule. Next, we get one of these hidden conditionals that you occasionally see in unbalanced games. If Howell works, then Graber works as well the next day. So you have to then see a block of HG. Anytime H is in, you see HG. A lot of beginners make mistakes with rules like this of thinking that G being in the order somewhere triggers this, and then you would see HG. No, it's conditional, and the trigger is H. If H pops in, then we know we see the HG order. G is not a trigger for this rule. So that's the rules. Possibilities here are just way too numerous to have any hope of handling this with scenarios. We got to go on and just attack the questions. For question 7, it's a bit of a play on the usual acceptability question. Here we just got to find one order that cannot be an acceptable order. And that kind of shows you how many possible combinations are acceptable in this game. It's a ton. So what you're doing is looking for something that violates the rules. I would still do it the usual way and take your rules one at a time and see if they're violated anywhere. So what about the 2 max rule? Do we see that violated anywhere? No, we never see 3 anywhere in here. So we're not worried about that rule anymore. 2 max is out. What about the XX rule? Do we see any of them smushed together in here? No, we don't see it anywhere. So that's got to go. Now we get to the FFJJ rule. We got to see all our Fs before all our Js. A's fine. B, not fine. All of a sudden there's a J with an F after it. So we finally found an order that's not acceptable. For question 8, we're dealing with a situation where we have to have each of these people have 2 consecutive days off at least during the Monday, Friday weekday. It's okay if they don't work at all still, but They can't be, here we can see already, this H is too close to each other. You need to have that H be back here at least so you get 2 days in between the two H's. So we can cross A off, and we're just going along looking for a correct order here. Again, here, HH, that's going to violate that rule, but also this other rule. And all the other rules, it's worth noting, are still in play. Here we see two I's. That's no good. How about here? F, HG, FJ looks good. Everything's fine. Whereas this one down here, E is the only one you might fall for here. This violates the JF rule. We see the J and F aren't in the right order. So D is the correct answer here. 9 tells me that both F and Jackson are working during the week. They might be working more than once, but we know we're going to see at least an F and a J. And we also know that that's going to have to follow the order from our rule over here. However, that isn't a lot of information about this game, so rather than trying to think if there's any sort of inferences I can draw from that, at max you could do some restrictions, like there's no way J is going to go there, and I just try and attack the question. Is it okay to have F on Monday and Wednesday? Yeah, I'm not going to look at it. This is a question that you want to take what I like to call the soft first pass. I'm not going to do a deep analysis of whether this could work. I'm going to look for something that jumps out at me right away as being impossible, unacceptable. So then I go on to the next answer choice. Jackson works on Monday and Wednesday. Well, Jackson on Monday, if F's working, that's a problem. Otherwise, that means that there's going to be at least one F behind the J, and we violated that rule. So this cannot be true, and it's our correct answer. 10 has Fuentes working 2 days during the week, and Jackson is on Thursday. So we pop Jackson into Thursday, and I know I got to get both those F's in before him. Suddenly there's just only one place for them because they can't be consecutive. F, F, J. And realizing that things are still pretty open for possibilities here, we can't really have H, but other than that, I don't see anything right away. I'm going to just head to the questions and see if I've already solved this problem. So what could be true? F working on Tuesday? No, that can't be true. We know he's Monday and Wednesday. How about Graber working on Tuesday? To me, that looks totally possible. Remember, G does not trigger this rule. G can be by itself. And then we could just throw somebody like Imam, who we don't have any rules about, in the backside, and everything works fine. That gives us B as the correct answer. You can quickly eliminate the rest. F on Tuesday and Thursday, no way. Has to be Monday and Wednesday. Jackson, Tuesday and Thursday, no way to get Jackson that early. Jackson, Wednesday and Friday, similar. No way to get them that early, or there's no place to put the two Fs. For 11, Graber doesn't work during the week. And if Graber is out, then there's no way to have H, because remember, if H is in, then that's a trigger for this rule HG, and you need to have G in as well. So no G is a trigger for this rule that then tells us no H as well. That's a modus tollens inference. So now I know that we just have F, J, and I in this game. So what must be true during that scenario? F works exactly once in the week? I'm looking at it, and to eliminate ones like this, I just want to make a quick counter example. It's a question 11. It's going to require a little bit of work, so I'm not afraid of getting down to this stuff, spending a little time on it, provided I have the time. So I try and throw my FFJ in, and then I can throw I in twice here, and everything's good. So I got to cross that one out. For B, does Fuentes have to be twice like we saw here? How about F, I, J, I, J? No, and it works fine having Fuentes just once, so we gotta cross that out. What about C? Must it be true that Imam works only once during the week? No, we've already seen 2 scenarios where he's twice. How about Imam working exactly 2 days a week? Can we get him once or none? Well, let's try and do it. We get our 2 Fs in, and then we try to get our 2 Js in, which would then allow us to have I just once, and unfortunately, we've now mashed the 2 J's up against each other, which is unacceptable. If you try and do it like F, F, J, J, again, you're going to mash the 2 F's up together. So it looks like it must be true that I works twice during the week. Otherwise, there's just no way to get the 2 F's and the 2 J's in and still follow this rule right here. And this rule right here. That gives us D as a correct answer, and we finished the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you on the next game.